So here's the next section of the January 2020 Algebra 1 Regents exam. This is the short answer, question number 25. These 2-point questions should be pretty quick in this part 2. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to graph this on my calculator and look at the table. So this is the negative square root of x. And make sure here that what they're really testing is, do you know how to use the right arrow? Because you can't put the +1 inside. That would be a different transformation. We want the +1 on the outside, which means to go up 1 on the outside. That's an up 1 transformation versus inside would have been left 1. So it's a very different look to how the graph would be. And the negative out front would flip it over the x-axis. So it's going to be kind of looking like this shape going downward, but also up 1. So not just like this, but basically like that instead. But to be more precise, let's use the table. So enter here, Control T makes our table. And I'm going to use the points that are easy to graph and nothing else. So 0, 1 would be the y-intercept, and then 1, 0. And then we want a little bit more. I'm going to scroll down until I see a good one. Here's 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, -1. And that's enough. You don't really need more than that. That gets a good shape, and there's our 2 points done. You don't have to label anything because you're only graphing one equation. So there's nothing else to show like this one's that one. Like there's no need for that. For 26, it says here, determine algebraically the maximum number of adult-sized t-shirts she can purchase. So maximum number, we're talking about almost like an inequality. So $6.25 each for the adult size. This is kind of complicated. So we need some letters. We need some variables here. So I'm going to use A for the adult size. Say let A be the adult size t-shirts. And then we can let's see, what's that one? Youth. So let's let Y be the youth size shirts. And it says here the adult ones are $6.25 plus the youth ones are $4.50. And she has a total of $550 to purchase both. So that money has to be less than, or equal to $550. And the maximum number of adult-sized t-shirts if she purchases 45 youth ones. So really it's not that bad. I thought it'd be kind of a system here, and I thought that's kind of weird for a 2-point question. And it's not, because we're just putting 45 in for Y. And we're just going to solve for A. This is really not too bad at all. Like I expected for a 2-point, it should be roughly 2 steps, maybe 3 steps, but really it's not going to be too much work. So 6.25a, I just multiplied those two numbers and got 202.5, and then from there it's just a 2-step inequality to solve. So a quick evaluation and a 2-step to solve, and we're done. So 550 minus that. 347.5. Let's see, did I type something in wrong? No, I think I'm good. 220, that's 22. 550 minus, yep, okay. So that's less than or equal to that. So 6.25a, and then divide by 6.25, divide by 6.25. And we get 55.6 is less than, so A is less than or equal to that. So if you're thinking about, okay, well, how many shirts can she purchase? She can purchase 55.6, which is not really possible. So what really makes sense is 55, because you're not going to buy 0.6 of a t-shirt. So at most, 55 adult shirts can be purchased. And that's it. All right, moving on here. Here we go, a maximum minimum. It's kind of fun, but does it even matter? Nope, it does not. So all it wants us to do is take 4 pints of water per day and convert it into fluid ounces per week. So here's where our dimensional analysis, we call this, can be used. So 4 pints per 1 day. We want to get to fluid ounces per 1 week. That's what we want to end up with. So if you don't know the conversions here, that's going to be a problem. So at the very end of this, let's see, can I scroll there faster? Nope. The very end of this test, you will see stuff that we need. Let me go all the way to the last page. Here it is, some conversions. So we're going to need some of this stuff, and I think I can copy and paste. Let's see if this works. Nope, I cannot. All right, so we're going to need 1 cup is 8 fluid ounces, and we're going to need another conversion here about pints and cups. So 1 pint equals 2 cups, and that's it. I wanted us to get from pints to ounces, so now I can copy and paste this, and I'm going to bring that back where we were. So don't forget about that reference sheet, because you're going to need that, like we need right now, for some questions. So I'm going to put that here. Let's just paste that in place. Sorry. Technical difficulties, please stand by. There we go. Let's do a paste. There's it. There it is. Oy, oy, oy. Modern technology. Well, you know what? I'm going to rewrite it because I'm sick of this. 1 cup is 8 ounces and 1 pint is 2 cups. This is just a mess. 1 cup is 8 ounces and we said 1 or 2 cups or 1 pint. Geez, it took forever. So we want to get from pints to cups. Let's do that first. So if we want to get rid of pints, I'm going to put 1 pint in the bottom and do 2 cups up top. So this fraction is equal to 1 because 2 cups equal 1 pint. So I'm just multiplying by 1, which is why this method works. That gets rid of the pints. Now we have cups. To go from that to ounces, we would again do that thing we want to get rid of on the bottom. That way the cups cancel. And that again is equal to 1 because 8 ounces equals 1 cup. So we got our ounces. And now we just need to get into weeks. So 1 day would be 7 days in 1 week. And our days cancel, and we're left with weeks in the bottom, ounces up top, so we're in good shape. So 4 times 2 times 8 times 7. So just multiply those. 4 times 2 times 8 times 7. Then we get 448 fluid ounces. And all the ones, 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 times, well, that one there, times 1 is just 1 week. So that's how many fluid ounces in 1 week, and that's how we use the dimensional analysis to answer that question. And I'm sorry for the difficulty there trying to copy and paste. I don't know what happened. All right, 28, trinomial in standard form. So it wants us to do some multiplying out here. So you could use what we call the box that rocks, or you could double distribute. 3x times x would be 3x squared. 3x times 7 would be 21x. And then minus 4x from here, and then minus 28. Don't forget the minus 1/4 x squared as well. Combine your x squareds, that would be, so if taking 3 minus 1/4, that would be 2 3/4, or 2.75, same thing. And then combine your x's here, that would be plus 17x minus 28. Standard form means highest power first, so highest exponent first. And then in order from least to greatest going down. So that would be our final answer. Or again, you can call it 2.75. That's the same thing. I like fractions, so there we go. 29, here we go, some properties. So properties are not super common, but they do show up. So somehow here we were given this, and then it got from here to there. So what happened? Well, the parentheses are gone. So that must be the distributed property. So distributed property means you can distribute the 4 in and the negative 3 in to get that and that. And then from here to here, what happens? Well, they're adding 14a to both sides to get rid of it on the right side. Move it over here. So that property is called the addition property. I know, kind of silly, but that's what it's called, the addition property. And it really is of equations. All that means is you can add the same thing to both sides of an equation. Done. Moving on. Rational and irrational. Here it is. So is that rational or irrational? So one way to describe this is the square root of 3 times the square root of 9, because product means to multiply. That's the square root of 27. If you type in the square root of 27, you get a decimal. So 27 is not a perfect square. So that means that the square root of 27 is irrational. I'm pretty sure that would be enough for full credit there. What I would do is I would add a little bit more. I would add a little bit more to this, and I would just say, well, we also know that when we type this in, square root of 27 equal, then our calculator, 5.196. I'll write the whole thing down. So the decimal doesn't repeat, does not repeat, or stop. It doesn't terminate. So for those reasons, it is irrational. If it stopped, or if it repeated, it would be a rational number. Moving on. Complete the square. Here we go. So we have to do what it says. So let's complete the square here. I like drawing the box in. So x squared would be x times x. Negative 8x was split in half. Negative 4x, negative 4x. So right in half. So in order to get negative 4x, you need negative 4 and negative 4. So 16 completes the square. So we need 16 added in. So x squared minus 8x, we want a 16 added in. And that part is our square, so I put the square brackets around it. But in order to add in 16, you have to also take care of it by subtracting 16. And don't forget there's still a plus 6 on there from the original equation. And then from here, we know how this box factors into its length times its width. So x minus 4 times itself. And then combining these is just a minus 10 equals 0. And then we're going to solve. So we want to move the 10 over. So 10 equals x minus 4 squared. You can drop the square once. I tend to. Don't forget when you take a square root, always do plus or minus if you're solving an equation. Otherwise, you lose a whole point for that because you lost an answer. So this would equal x minus 4, or got to add the 4 over. I always put the 4 in front and the plus or minus. That way you know the 4 is not inside the square root. And that is our answer. Those are our two answers. If you wanted decimals, you could type that in, do 4 plus square root of 10, 4 minus square root of 10, and you get two decimals there. But it says exact values. So that means square root form. Means don't type it in, don't estimate it, don't give it a decimal. 32. So express B, I jumped right to the question here, the last sentence. So that means solve for B. Okay, so we want to get B equals. So what I would do is, I'm going to copy this down. I kind of like how it's in parentheses here because the n over 2 I can get rid of pretty easily. I can just divide by n over 2. But when you're dividing by a fraction, that's the same thing as flipping and multiplying by the reciprocal. So I would do that just because it's a little bit easier. So that would be 2s over n equals a plus b, and then just minus a. Done. 2s over n minus a equals b. One way to do it. There are other ways, but only need one way to solve it. Part 3. So these are our 4-point questions. So a lot of graphs do show up in these because there's a lot of steps involved with graphing. It says to graph this equation. So I'm going to go to my calculator, make a table, because it's just easier. I mean, you could do it by hand and in your head, but why? There's absolutely no reason to. Just make sure you use x, because you can't use t. So plus 6, oh, not 16. I was thinking 16. 64x plus 60. Control T makes the table. We don't need any negatives, so 0, 60 will be the first dot that we need to plot. And I'm always going to plot all the dots. Okay, you want to make this as precise as possible. You don't want to lose any points for accuracy. So always do all of them, because there's just no reason not to. You got 3 hours for this test. You might as well make it as precise as you can. 4 is 60. What is 5? 5 is a negative 20, so 5 is not going to be visible. And then when you're drawing this quadratic in, just do your best to draw the curve. Definitely don't want to use your ruler. That looks awful. Let's try again. Can I do better? Yikes. Hopefully you can better than I can. Probably should erase that little part I went negative because we're talking about, a ball in the air, and this is the height. So the ball is not digging a hole and going on the ground. So I'm going to say that that goes like that. So it says determine the average rate of change in feet per second from when you release the ball to when it reached its maximum height. So average rate of change, just think slope. So release the ball was at 0, and that was at 60. The maximum height we saw here was at 2, 124. So what's just the slope between those 2 points? So we just do from here, y change, x change. So change in y over change in x. So 124 minus 60 would be 64. And 2, so 64 over 2 is 32. So this would be, if you want to do feet per second, so 32 feet per second, like it says. And that's it, right? That's all we need. Okay. Ooh, look at this one. This looks kind of busy. A lot of work here. So we got to solve each of these for y before we graph these. So negative x plus 2y minus 4 is less than 0. So I'm going to add these over. So 2y is less than x plus 4. Divide everything by 2. So y is less than, it's really a 1/2 x plus 2. And then for this one, same idea. 3x plus 4y plus 4 is greater than or equal to 0. So minus 3x minus 4 minus 3x minus 4. So 4y is greater than or equal to negative 3x minus 4. Divide everything by 4. Y is greater than or equal to negative 3/4. Always leave as a fraction there. There's no reason to make that a decimal. So much easier to graph. So the first one, 1/2 x plus 2. So here's the plus 2 y-intercept, up 1 over 2, up 1 over 2. For the slope, I always fill up the graph. There's just no reason not to. If I'm grading your test and you're lazy, it's just not great. You want to not be lazy. You want to show everything as accurately as possible. And you got the time. Okay, use your ruler. How does that look? Is that pretty good? That looks pretty solid. Draw the line in. Arrows on the ends, but this is an inequality. So, and it says less than, and there's no equal to part of the inequality. So you want to actually make this dashed. So you want to, if you use your ruler, you want to make a dash somehow, either erase after, or you can do it dashed as you're using the ruler. And then this is underneath, because it's y is less than. So if this is a point on the line, underneath it's down here, underneath it over there. I'm actually going to do it a little differently. I'm going to shade it in a way that's a little bit easier to do too. I'm going to do this direction. And the other one, I'll do the other direction, and we'll see where they cross. I'm going to label this too. So this is y is less than 1/2 x plus 2. All right, other one, negative 1 y-intercept, negative 3/4 slope. So negative 1 y-intercept, and then down 3 right 4 for negative 3/4. Down 3 right 4. I'm going to follow that backwards. Up 3 left 4. Up 3 left 4. Using a ruler. Let's get that lined up. Nice line through there. Arrows on the ends. And this one it wants above and equal to. So above and equal to means that our solution is this spot right here. And this is going to be y is greater than or equal to negative 3/4 x minus 1. So our solution, let's make really obvious. I'm going to use a green here. This area is our solution. Put a big S on it. And let's move on. Steven says 0, 0 is a solution. Is he correct? Absolutely, he's correct. He found a point right here in the double shaded area. So yes, it is. Good job. I'll make it blue. I'll make it blue right here. So yes, it is in the shaded area of both inequalities. So therefore, it's a solution to the system. So it is a solution to the system. Nice. Where are we at? 35. Okay, we're getting to the end here. A lot of questions. Linear regression. Go to calculator, spreadsheet, type it in. Sale price, P, and then what's the other one? The other one is homes available. I'm going to do HOMES. There we go. So put the numbers in. So 160 goes with 126, 180. You can go either way. I'm going to keep going down here. 200, 220, 240. That's 24. 260 and 280. 7 numbers. I'm going to just go back and double check. There's 7 numbers there. Looks good. So 126, 103, 82, 75, 82, 40, 20. Okay, so linear regression. Always helps to have these labeled before you do linear regression. So I'm going to go to the menu. I'm going to do statistics, stat calculation, linear regression. I like the a plus bx. And it says to use f of p, so the function of p. So p is like your x, and then Holmes would be your y, or your output. Those are the numbers we need. Did I do the wrong one? Huh. I did the wrong one. I don't know what happened. Weird. Let's try again. Let's try again. Can I do this? I can. Okay. So menu, stats, stat calc. I don't know. I must have done mean median line by mistake. I'm going to do linear regression mx plus b. I switched it this time to see if that would help. I'm going to just hit the wrong button when I was hitting enter. There we go. Okay, now we're good to go. So always have to make sure we have an equation. So f of p in this case it wants. So the number of new homes initially, the nearest 100, so 249.857, so 86 for nearest 100, 2 decimal places. Plus the slope is actually a minus. I'm going to do a minus. So minus 0.792 is just 0.79. P, not x, it wants you to use p. So make sure you use the right letters. Correlation coefficient is r, not r squared. So r is equal to negative. Let's make that more obvious. Negative 0. Nearest hundredth would be 954. So 95. What does this mean? This means a strong negative, because close to -1, relationship. And it does say in context. So you have to add a little more than that. In context. You can't just stop here. Strong negative relationship between the two things. So between sale price and number of homes available. Sale price and number of new homes available. It wouldn't hurt to say a little bit more than that too, as sale price increases, number of new homes decreases. That's what the negative relationship means. As one goes up, the other one goes down. And that's it. Moving on to 2 more questions to go. Length of a rectangular sign. Draw a picture, rectangle. Length is 6 more than the width divided by 2, because half it. Width is W. Oops, that's not what I want. That's not what I want. Let's try again. 6 more, not L more. 6 more than half its width. That all represents the length, L. So let's see. Write an equation of one variable that can use to find the number of inches in the dimension assigned. So the area is length times width, but that's 2 variables. So you have to take out the L and replace it with what is equal to L. The width divided by 2. All times W. And it does want us to use one that we can solve. This is actually still 2 variables. We actually had 3 originally. I have to get rid of the A and use the number, 432. So if you stop there, like I did at first, that's actually not right. It wants just 1 variable, so it wants the A gone as well. 432 should be there. And now we can solve it. So 432 equals, multiply your W into everything, so 6W plus, I'm going to call W over 2 just 0.5, so 0.5 W squared. And then we can just solve this quadratic by moving the 432 over. I'm going to rewrite it too in standard form, so 0 equals 0.5 W squared plus 6W minus 432. A little trick here, I like to get rid of the half in front of the W squared, because you just don't need it. Times 2 to both sides isn't going to change the answers, because you get 0 equals just W squared plus 12W minus that doubled, 864. Just multiply the 2 into everything to do that. And now that's a lot easier to solve, because from here we can just use quadratic formula. We could use factoring. It's a very large number to factor, but I'm going to try it anyways. I'm going to go to my calculator. I'm going to use that little trick, 864 divided by x. I'm going to go to the table, Control T, and I'm going to look for 2 numbers that are 12 apart, because they add to 12 but multiply to this. and one of them has to be negative. So keeping that in mind, they're adding to 12, and one of them is negative, so they're going to be kind of close together. So I'm going to scroll pretty far down. Wow, I ended up stopping at a good number. 24 and 36 are 12 apart, so that's actually what I want, because I want to do W plus 36, W minus 24. That way they multiply to a negative, because 36 times negative 24 is negative 864. And they add to 12. So that's perfect. Kind of lucked out there. Using the zero product property, we can say set each one equal to 0 and solve for W. We're going to get one here that doesn't make any sense. You can't have a negative with. So W equals negative 36. We're going to omit, because no negative with makes no sense. So the only with that actually makes sense here would be 24. Let's go back and make sure we actually answer the question. The dimensions it wants. So it wants not just 24, it wants the length as well. The length of this, remember, was 6 plus the width over 2. So if the width is 24, I'm just going to put that here. So the length is 6 plus 12 for half of 24, which is 18. So our dimensions, we can just say more obviously here, the length is 18 and the width equals 24. Very obvious final answer. Always a good idea. 37, the last question, here it is. Systems. I love making systems for last questions. Okay, there's a lot of steps here. There's a graph. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on here. Brown family paid $170 for 3 children and 2 adults. X is the price for a child. Y is the price for adult. So 3X plus 2Y equals 170. The other family, 4 children, 6 adults, 360. There we go. Now we've got some points. Got some points here. To graph these, not the easiest thing in the world to do. So I'm going to split them up. I'm going to do 1 and 1 here. I'm going to write this one over here. 3x plus 2y equals 170. I'm going to solve it for y. So minus 3x from both sides. 2y equals 170 minus 3x. Divide everything by 2. Y equals 85 minus 3/2 x. Whereas this one over here, 4x plus 6y equals 360 minus the 4x. 6y equals 360 minus 4x. Divide by 6, divide by 6, divide by 6. So y equals 60 minus 2/3 x. So looking at the scales here, they're actually the same. So we could use the slope pretty easily, meaning you wouldn't have to use your calculator, but we can double check on the calculator. So here's 60 for the y-intercept, minus 2/3. Again, because these are both counted by 5s every line, both the x and the y direction, I can just do down 2, right 3, because the scales are the same. So down 2, right 3, I can just follow that pattern like this to 0, which makes it pretty quick to do. We could always, again, check it on the calculator, never hurts. We've got a tool, we can use it. But it looks like those, let me just do it. Let's just check. So if we do 60 minus, that's a plus, minus 2/3x. Let's go to the table. 0 is obviously 60. I'm going to jump all the way. Oh, this is going to be a while. I'm going to go to the menu. I'm going to go to table. I'm going to do edit table settings to tweak this a little bit. So I'm going to start at 0, and I'm going to count by tens. And you'll see here, do I have the points that match? 30, 40 I have. I don't have 50 because it counts by tens. Let's go all the way to 90. 90 should be 0. Good. Okay, that matches. So this one's going to be, I'm going to label it as, let's see, this was the 4x one, which is the Peckham family. So I'm going to label that as the Peckhams. Right here. The other one, 85 minus 3/2 x. So 85 would be here. So minus 3/2, so down 3, right 2. Down 3, right 2, etc. Crossing here. Down 3, right 2, etc., etc. So I'm going to use my ruler for this one. I don't think arrows would make any sense here because you're not going to have negative prices. So I wouldn't use arrows on the ends. I think we should stop right there at the end where it hits 0. and just say, okay, it stops somewhere about here, but don't put an arrow there because that doesn't make any sense. And this is the Brown's family. The Brown family, I should say, the Brown family. And or use the equations to label. That's fine too. They cross here at 30, 40. I'm guessing it's going to ask us for that some point. There it is. 30, 40 is the coordinates of the intersection. X comma Y always. And then explaining, wow, this is a nice 6-point question. If you get this question, you should be like jumping for joy. So what does this mean? So 30 is the amount for the child tickets. Cost $30. Because remember, that was the x-axis label. So that's the x coordinate. And the 40 is the adult. Adult tickets cost $40. What a great question. And that's the whole test. There's nothing else after that. So that's the complete short answer for the January 2020 Algebra 1 Regents. That's it.